me in the commentary box is Stephen Finn and also Alex Hartley. In a while we'll hear from Atif Nawaz. Plenty of talking points ahead of this match. The pitch, Steve, the pitch. Does that smack of desperation to actually roll out the same pitch?
Well, I think it shows maybe a change in thinking. I think they've played on very flat pitches here traditionally, but they need something to change their fortunes, it feels like. So they've opted for the pitch, watered, re-rolled, with big footholes there, and maybe just the edges of those cracks slightly more crumbly than they were at the beginning of the first Test match. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays, and I think it's an unprecedented move in Test match cricket. So fascinating.
Spin, Alex, you'll like that.
I love it. So we're going to see spin pretty early on, I imagine. I mean, yesterday those cracks were closer together than they are today, so they are widening even between the days off, and there's not even been any cricket on. So I'm looking forward to seeing the spinners on there. I imagine it will spin slightly more. What we don't want is slow turn. We want the pitch to offer a bit for the spinners.
It'll bounce a bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. More of all that later on. But let's hear first of all from the returning England captain Ben Stokes. Right, well, Ben, welcome back. I think it's quite a relief, isn't it?
Obviously frustrating being injured, but really happy that I've got back and looking forward to getting back out there with the lads.
Yeah. What's it like being captain, sitting on the sidelines? I mean, in the summer as well.
Yeah, it's actually obviously it's frustrating knowing that you can't play, but it helps know that I like watching cricket. So and as well, when you are injured, your focus gets put onto other things. Your rehab, trying to get back as quick as you can. So you sort of do have those natural distractions. In the gym, working, getting everything going, building yourself up so you can get to a certain level where you can really start pushing yourself. So. Although injury is frustrating, there is obviously other things that can, distract you from the disappointment and put a positive sort of swing on it.
Yeah. Well, I've been watching. I don't think you could do any more, could you? I mean, you've been running flat out, bowling as quick as you possibly can. I mean, you've done all you can, haven't you?
Yeah, that's the thing. Obviously to declare yourself fit, you want to put yourself through the ringer, they say. Obviously, I spent the last 2 days, putting myself through. Quite a lot of high intensity stuff. Obviously doing my sprints, batting for long periods of time, and then obviously bowling over that first Test match and then these 2 days. So I needed to make sure that I ticked every box and make sure that I was confident within myself, confident with the rest of my body as well. So I've done everything that I needed to do, and we're good to go.
Yeah, and it must be quite a clinical decision, mustn't it? Somebody's got to keep the emotion of wanting to play out of it.
Look, although I always try and push our medical team to let me loose a bit earlier than they probably have in the programme, but I think that's just me as a person. But I'm always very honest with them, very honest with myself. I listen to my body a lot. So look, we've worked really well, really hard together on this, and I'm just happy that I'm able to get back out on the field and looking forward to it.
Now tell us about the pitch. It seems to have been resuscitated, sort of brought back from the dead. Have you had a good look at it?
I'm not sure about that.
Well, we hope it has.
Yeah. First time I've ever played on a used pitch in a Test match before. I mean, look, we can, stand around, sit there and discuss what we think it's going to do, but we're not really going to know until a day's plays or maybe even a session's been played in it. You'd probably like to think that it might offer the spin a little bit more than it did last game. There's obviously not sure the bowlers will like it, but you can still see the footmarks from the last Test match there.
And the run-ups too, actually, they're quite sandy.
Yeah, so look, who knows what we're going to get, who knows what is going to happen, but we'll just have to play what's in front of us. But you'd like to think that'll be a little bit more on offer for the spin this week.
Yeah. Do you feel a bit desperate to roll out a used pitch?
Well, look, I think if you look at how that first Test went, you'd like to think other way around, in your home conditions, you'd like to try and give yourself a little bit more of a chance. Obviously that first 3 days on that wicket last week was pretty much a graveyard for everyone who tried to bowl on it. And if we went 1-0 down in 3 series in England, then we'll be speaking to our groundsmen saying, can we have a bit more of this? Or something like that, because you obviously always try and use home to your advantage, but who knows.
he has to go out and just play on it. That's all he can do, really, isn't it? I mean, it could be a big toss, though.
I think the toss is always big out in the subcontinent. You'd always like to try and get some big runs on the board first innings with the bat, and because they generally get worse and worse as the game's played on here, and I can't see this getting any better.
Although you didn't play, I suspect you were very proud of the way England stuck to it those first couple of days, weren't you? The way they actually walked off together at the end, heads up after a really long time.
Yeah, look, I think when you're sitting on the sidelines and you get a different view of what's going on out there, I think when you watch, from up in the dressing room, you get a bit more of a sense of what's going out in the middle. When I'm out there, you're thinking about loads. You don't necessarily get to see everything that's going on. But one thing that I've noticed massively last week was the small little things that me and Baz always talk about in the dressing room as a team and to individuals. Just, those small things, mean a hell of a lot in the grand scheme of things. The running after the balls to the boundary, the just getting the bowler's cap. Putting until the last over of the day, no switching off, because when you're in England and it's high teens, low 20s, a bit easier to do that for a full day. But when you get out here in that 40-degree heat and bowlers running in for their third spell and their balls getting hit through the outfield and they see the fielders sprinting after it all the way to the boundary, those tiny little things do make a massive difference to what the opposition sees as well. But me and Baz are really big on those things, is making sure that we're always putting in for each other and taking any sort of individual thinking or mindset towards a game. And I think for me last week that was a huge thing that I noticed from sitting up in the dressing room. Yeah,
we all did it. I mean, it really showed. Just the last thought, to come here twice and win 2 series would be quite something, wouldn't it?
Yeah, great, because it's a very, very tough place to come and play cricket. You're constantly, especially last tour and even the last game, you feel like you're constantly trying to manipulate the game in your favour to try and force a result, and we did have to do that for the first 4 days. We stuck out our guns and with the ball, bowled them out for 550, which seems like a lot of runs, but we were confident that we did a really, really good job there. Sounds silly, but it was a very flat wicket, not much on offer, and we knew what we had to do with the bat, which was to bat once, bat big, and put all the pressure back onto Pakistan when it comes to them with the third innings, which I thought we did brilliantly. And the way in which I think everyone understood that without us having to pull us in at the end of the day and then talk the team through what we needed to do. I think everyone's just got a real sense of what's required for us to get on the front foot. Because that 250 run lead makes a massive difference to even 100 or 150, because then it makes it a lot easier for Pakistan to go out there and bat and know what they need to do. Whereas if you're behind by 250 in your second innings of the bat, you're going to have to go on and either bat out the rest of the day or 400, 500. So I thought we played that game very, very well, and you've got to put so much credit onto the bowlers. In particular, I know Ruti and Brookie, just played incredibly well, but the bowlers, I thought, throughout the whole Test match were outstanding.
So at least we now know that Stokes is fit to play. He comes in, so too does Matthew Potts, in place of Chris Woakes and Gus Atkinson. So that's how England will line up, with 3 spinners potentially in the side, if you include Joe Root, of course. Finney, what sort of boost will that be to have for England to have Stokes back, do you think?
Yeah, huge, and it gives just a really nice balance to the team, and all the focus in between these Test matches has been on Pakistan and the acrimony within their organisation at the moment, with the droppings of major players. But yeah, for England to be able to welcome back their captain, to have him batting at 6 and to move Jamie Smith back down to 7, and also that the pitch would have made that decision a lot easier. I think had it been a really flat pitch, you have to guarantee that your third seamer can bowl 15 overs plus in a day, because the spinners on a pitch that doesn't offer anything would just be battered all over the place. So the fact that we anticipate it will spin from earlier in the game, I don't expect it to be a ranging bunsen, but I think it will offer a little bit more from earlier in the game. I think that would have made that decision that much easier, and it's good to see him back.
Yeah, well, he gave away how much he's looking forward to it before actually we turned the microphone on. He said, "It's been 9 weeks since I last spoke to you."
We've missed you.
Well, I don't think he meant it like that necessarily, but it suggests he's been counting the days. He knows exactly how long it's been since he's been off.
Yes, and he's the sort of person, as we've seen him pouring around the outfield with drinks in his hand, and he looks in great shape. He's the sort of person who never leaves any stone unturned. When he's committing to something, he does it 100%, and the dedication that even we've seen within the last 8 or 9 days since being here, that he wanted to show that he was 100% fit to play this test match. He's done everything he could have done, and now he just has to go out there and get that first session out the way, the first chase to the boundary, little things like that. That'll settle his mind and he'll get into his work.
Yeah, because it's not all bowling, is it, Alex? I mean, he actually did this hamstring batting. So, we've watched him, haven't we, these last week, tearing up and down, doing every sort of exercise possible. He has been bowling in the nets, some quite long spells. None of that is quite the same as playing in a game. And of course, these days, I'm afraid that is a luxury not afforded to modern test cricketers. It's bang, 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 out you go. Ideally, although he probably wouldn't want to, go out and play against a country 11 somewhere. Like they used to do a 3-day game or so, just try it out. But it's going to be straight into the fray.
Yeah, straight into the fray, and we know Ben Stokes. We know that he'll throw himself straight in when he's a competitor. He almost gets that white line fever. As soon as he steps over that boundary rope, he's like, right, game on. I will put my body on the line for this team. And that's why we love and hate watching him play so much at the same time, because we've seen him play through pain. We've seen him bowl through that knee injury. And no doubt, if he feels his hamstring slightly, it's not going to stop him. He'll just go, okay, I've got to get through the next 2 or 3 days. But he's done all those sprintings and all those sprints, and once you've done your hamstring, it's that full capacity sprint. Can you turn? Can you go again? And we've seen him do all that. He looks fit, he looks strong, and he's done everything he can to get himself back on the pitch.
It's just that bit in the head, isn't it, Steve? We've been there. You can do all your physical stuff, you can do everything else. It's just that bit in your mind to convince yourself that you're all right when you run up and bowl that first ball.
Yeah, although having played with Ben and having seen him go through different fluctuations within his career, he's not the sort of person who lets those things enter his mind, which is actually why he's always been earmarked to be a great player, I think, because when he's in that moment, his ability to just clear his mind and focus on what's in front of him, as opposed to fret about what's behind him, is what makes him a special player.
I'm just watching him now because as we record this podcast, he's walked out from the pavilion end. He went via the pitch for a look at it. He went and did a television interview down to our right, and then talked to me, he's talked to the press. He's going back up that end again via the pitch. I mean, he's really looking at this. I mean, it's on their mind, isn't it?
It is, and I just went out there and I did a very similar thing, although far less convincing, with me standing there in my batting stance than Ben Stokes.
Yes.
But he, when you look down at that pitch, so as you look down on it, there are footmarks, there are dark footmarks that are clearly from the last Test match where they've been watered, and they're all crusty and crumbly, but they're outside the danger area. You don't anticipate too much coming from those in the first couple of days, but it's the cracks in your eye line as you stand there in your batting stance and you're looking at where you would imagine a ball would come from, and you look down and it's those cracks that are running the length of the wicket that are on or around off stump for both right and left handers. They're the things that your mind is focusing on there. So when Ben's pouring forward in his stance there, thinking about playing in front of his front pad, he's looking at those cracks and what length that is, that whether he'll be going forward or whether he'll be looking to go back. So,
but the cracks were there, weren't they? They were there in the first game.
They were, but they were less crumbly on the edges. Right. So there was more grass on the pitch. In the first test, and that packs all of the soil around the edge of those cracks together, and means that even if it's disturbed by feet or the ball, then it means that it just holds the edge of those cracks together. It looks to me as though it's been watered, it's been rolled, and then it's been mowed, so there's more bare areas in and around those cracks.
Definitely
so already you can see the corners of the cracks just crumbling slightly, and it's when it hits those crumbly corners of the cracks that's when the ball does exaggerated things.
I think we'll see more platelets move as well. In that first test, the platelets were not moving. There was obviously cracks in the surface, but it was rock solid. I went out today, and at the far end, just a few of those little platelets are they've got a little bit more movement than they had in the first test already.
It's fascinating because this has not been done before.
No.
We've had test matches played on the same grounds before, predominantly during COVID, and there was that game, of course, in Trinidad. 2 games played there after a match in Jamaica was abandoned. So I mean, it's not unique to play on the same ground twice, but to play on the same pitch. And I know people crack jokes, you could play on this for another fortnight, and it wouldn't. But that's kind of done in a joshing way, isn't it? It's not taken seriously. But here we are actually playing on the same pitch again.
Yeah, and when we left the ground at the end of the Test match 3 days ago, they were preparing the pitch just to the left of it. So this is a last-minute decision that's been made by that 900-man committee that sat and met yesterday to pick this Pakistan
It's very
squad.
complicated, right? We'll talk about that with Atif later. But I think 13 people on the committee, 4 of whom don't have a vote. And I don't think the committee that had anything to do this actually had the captain and coach involved either. So it's an unusual
That blows
setup.
my mind. Blows my mind.
13 of them.
How a captain and a coach do not have the final say on a starting 11 absolutely blows my mind.
Yeah, I would say that this pitch isn't going to be a minefield. That it's still packed together like concrete, and I do anticipate that they're letting it bake in the sun. There's no sheet on it, there's no cover, because they are trying to get it to break up that little bit more. But fundamentally, that is still a rock-solid test match pitch.
This could be the start of something fantastic, couldn't it? Every time we come to Pakistan, it could be a used pitch from now on after tomorrow, after we see how it plays. Or it could be an absolute shambles and it is never going to be done again.
Well, that's the thing. And if it does become a shambles, it could easily become a regulation that you're not allowed to do it. I was interested, though, by what Stokes said in that interview, saying, well, look, if we were at home and we were 2-0 down in a series or whatever he said, we would be looking to produce something for our own conditions. At home, it's probably easier to throw together a green pitch, just mow a bit off, water it, shove the stumps in. Here, in this weather, there's only really one way to go, isn't there? And that is produce one of these. And that can only, unless you really get a rake into it and scarify a new pitch out, well, play on the one you just played on.
Yeah, and I think that's why I found it odd before the first test match that everyone was talking about green grass on top of the pitch. That doesn't mean the ball nips around here in Pakistan. It means it just skids onto the middle of the bat. So, yeah, the only way to get the pitches moving laterally and maybe misbehaving towards the middle and back end of the game is to leave them dry and let them bake in the sun, and that's exactly what's happening here.
Feels like a big toss. You can imagine that committee of 13 and everyone else, if Ben Stokes calls correctly tomorrow.
Yes.
Pakistan lose the toss.
Yeah.
There'll be a few with, oh no.
Here we go. Anyway, Matthew Potts, quick word about him. Fresh legs. First overseas test, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a good challenge and a good test for him. The thing that I do like about Potts is that he steams in all day, and I don't think the heat will perturb him from doing so. So he's got that nice attitude where his run to the crease is quick and has intent all the time. He doesn't glide to the crease. He attacks the middle of the crease and bowls the ball hard, and you have to do that in these conditions if you're going to get something out of these pitches, whether it be up and down bounce or concentrating on hitting those cracks. You have to do it with energy, and he's a bowler who has really nice energy through the crease. He's off the back of having not played all that much test match cricket in the last couple of years since he made his debut, but a really strong finish to the season with Durham, a 9 for in one of the games in September. It's those sorts of performances that give you confidence, and he's the sort of man who I think is desperate to snatch at his opportunity. Snatch is the wrong word. He's desperate to take his opportunity without snatching it. There's a big difference.
There is. What about the short pitch stuff? They like that. The one thing I really hope, please, Stokes, don't do it yourself.
Don't do it yourself. That's why they've got Brydon Carson
Please
there.
don't. Can Potts do that role?
I think he can, but I don't think he necessarily will in this test. I think that they'll opt for the cast to predominantly fulfil that role. What will be interesting is that given there's less grass on the pitch and given that the square in general is far more bare than it was as we look down upon it now. The other day it was just the pitch that we were playing on that was cut, and there was 1, 3 or 4, 5 along maybe that the groundsman had cut, as you found out, to teach the ground staff how to scarify the pitch properly.
It's now a net pitch, actually, isn't it?
Yes, and it's now a net pitch that was playing well just now, but the square in general is a lot barer, so that means when the ball's defended into the offside, when it's clipped through mid-wicket or driven through the covers, that first scuff of the ball as it goes into the outfield is on drier, firmer ground, which means that the edges of the ball get scuffed up more, which I think we may end up seeing more reverse swing in this game, which will keep the seamers interested.
England to win the series. Psychologically, you have to look at Pakistan and that dressing room. They've dropped Babar Azam,
shambles.
Shaheen Shah Afridi. They've got all these people picking teams. The coach and the captain seem to be sidelined from that process. I mean, it's a weird setup, isn't it?
It is, but you do feel as though, and whenever I've played against Pakistan, you feel as though they thrive in chaos like that.
Well, they're used to it, I suppose.
Yeah, they're used to it. The different committees and government ministers getting involved in selection and things like that. You have to have a very strong mind, I think, to have a long career with Pakistan. Would I have dropped Babar Azam for this game? And even Shaheen and Naseem, I wasn't watching them thinking they're not trying. They're just being smashed around on a very flat pitch. And Babar, actually, of all the batters and the shots that were played within the test match, he got one that nipped back and hit the middle of his pad whilst the lights were on the first evening, somewhat unlucky, and then got one that lifted and bounced it off Gus Atkinson. So as he sat there now, he's probably thinking, well, I'm not sure I'd have played those balls any differently than I did.
I don't think he could.
No, I completely agree, So I'd be feeling pretty hard done by if I was him.
It's the impact on the side. He is their figurehead batsman, isn't he?
Yeah.
And also what that means for England as well. Well, best player's not here.
We think brilliant. You get them 2 down. You usually think, Babar Azam, you think he's due. He's had 9 test matches without 50. He's due to score some runs at some stage. He's sat at home celebrating his birthday tomorrow.
You don't drop Joe Root, you don't drop Virat Kohli, you don't really drop Babar Azam for me. I just don't get it. I think when his name is in a batting lineup, you know that he's due runs, like Finney said. And again, with Shaheen and Naseem, I just think what they've done going into this second test match just shows exactly where they're at as a cricket board.
I thought Naseem Shah bowled rather nicely, actually. Thanks, Finney. Thanks for your time. Let's bring Atif Nawaz now. We take a closer look at Pakistan. They made some drastic changes after the first test defeat, and they've changed the selectors, of course. But as we've already said, the biggest names in the squad were out: Babar Azam, Shaheen Shah Afridi, Naseem Shah, Sarfaraz Ahmed, wicketkeeper, didn't play in the first test. He's gone. Abrar Ahmed is still recovering. He's got dengue fever. So let's hope he's getting better, by the way, but he's unavailable. They've been replaced by the fast bowler Muhammad Ali, who we came across a couple of years ago, off-spinner Sajid Khan, 3 uncapped players, Hasibullah, Mehran Mumtaz and Kamran Ghulam, who I have to be honest, Atif, I don't know much about, apart from Muhammad, who we came across a couple of years ago. So come on then, from a Pakistani perspective, what's going on here? Is this to be expected, this kind of chaos?
I feel like the sort of the anti-Babar sentiment was sort of building, and it's not so much anti-Babar sentiment really. I shouldn't phrase it that way. It's just there was this kind of bubbling feeling that he needs a break. I think if they'd communicated their thought process clearer, the selectors, in terms of what they were trying to do with Babar and Shaheen and Naseem, they've tried to group them all together. They said, and I'm quoting Aqib Javed, who's one of the many new selectors in the Pakistan setup. He said, we're confident that this break from international cricket will help these players regain their fitness, confidence, and composure. And he also stressed they remain some of our finest talents with much more to contribute to Pakistani cricket. We're fully committed to supporting them during this period so they can come back even stronger. So it's not like they're being discarded into the wilderness forever. I think the leaked story at the start of the day, which was played across all of Pakistan's news channels, it couldn't have been great for Babar's mental health. The way everybody's now speculating about you and your future and you're done and things like that. That statement makes a lot of sense, I think. The idea of, yes, he's your best batter, but he's no good to you if he's not in the right headspace. If there's a long-term value in giving him a mental health break from the game. You just, every game that you don't perform, the pressure just builds even more and more and more. Take that pressure away completely. The first class competition in Pakistan is called the Quaid-e-Azam Trophy. It starts very soon. It's a good opportunity for him to go and play some cricket under less pressure, less scrutiny, find that confidence, find that mojo, and come back stronger. With Shaheen and Naseem, things are slightly different. But I think in terms of Babar, that's the attitude. And I think you could make an argument either way, but I would certainly favour if he's okay with it, or if you can get what cricketers are like. They never want to walk away. You can't make them walk away. But I think with all the factors in place and the kind of thinking that they have, you can't begrudge them that choice. It might make their batting a little bit weaker in the short term, but in the long term, a firing Babar is worth the wait.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that going back all the way through, Pakistan cricket's had a reputation of being chaotic. This doesn't help, does it? I mean, you think that you've got a modern Australian coach now with support staff. Are you surprised that we're back to a committee of 13 people, chaired by the chairman of the board? Apparently without the captain and the coach being included in this selection conversation, 4 of them not having a vote. I mean, it just looks a shambles.
It does, and again, I hate to keep bringing it back, but just at the top of the series, I wrote an article, and in that I referenced the number of people who've been involved with Pakistani administration and the rapid turnaround rate. It's very difficult to establish yourself in any role, in any facet of life, really, if you're not given a reasonable period of time to establish yourself, to demonstrate some results. And they just, there is a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. It was a seismic loss, to be fair, right? That first Test match, losing it by an innings, having scored 500 in the first innings, 823 runs conceded. You feel like you got to do something different, and that's what they did. I mean, before Shan Masood had finished his post-match interviews, they'd already added 3 new selectors, all of whom have decent sort of credentials. Aleem Dar, okay. That felt a bit left field, but people forget he's played first-class cricket. He's had a lot of close contact with the players over the years. Aqib Javed, part of Pakistan's 1992 World Cup winning side, and also the head coach at the Lahore Qalandars, who won back-to-back PSL titles, and then Azhar Ali, who is one of, I think, Pakistan's most recent triple centurion. So I mean, they've all got credentials. It's not like they've just picked 3 random names out of a hat, but at the same time, the regular turnover of people in that position, it makes you, it sort of has the law of diminishing returns sort of kicks in. I do think your captain and your coach, so this is speculative, by the way, because there was a media shared. I think just important to be clear, there was a video shared on social media where the chairman of the board, Mohsin Naqvi, is chairing a meeting.
It's a big room.
But there were 2 meetings that took place. So one was like, a meeting to discuss the general state of affairs of Pakistani cricket, an inquisition into the pitch, an inquisition into players' forms and what they can do to improve, all of that kind of stuff. And one was a selection meeting. So it's unclear at the moment what the captain and coach were privy to and what they weren't.
Who's going to spin England out? They're preparing this pitch. They want it to turn square and bounce and win the second test. The main spinner's in hospital with dengue fever, poor fellow. Who's going to spin England out then?
Well, it'll almost certainly be Noman Ali and Sajid Khan. They're probably going to get the nod, both of whom have played international cricket before. Noman was part of this squad anyway. So Sajid has been sort of drafted in as support for him with Abrar not featuring. I suspect if Kamran Ghulam gets a game, he'll end up bowling some slow left arm as well, because he's got quite a useful average. Noman, I can tell you, he's played 15 tests.
We saw him a couple of years ago, didn't we?
47 wickets. But he's 38 years of age, which is why there's always a little bit of reluctance to pick him, because, are you investing in your future with Noman Ali? Fine spinner. Sajid is a little bit younger, but again, he's never really been part of long-term plans in Pakistan. And then Kamran Ghulam's been made to wait a long time for his debut. He's been around the team. He's been on A tours. He's been in squads. I think he's only played 1 international game for Pakistan, and that was as a concussion substitute where he didn't bat or bowl against New Zealand. So he's been waiting a long time for this. Got a terrific record in first-class cricket. Averages 49. 1600s. He's taken 28 wickets with his slow left arm as well. So he's a very useful cricketer. I can see Kamran starting tomorrow for sure.
Right, Alex, what about you? Who do you know out of these, with your coaching experience here in Pakistan?
Well, Muhammad Ali Daisy, as we call him for Multan, is a seam bowler, and they've obviously got rid of 2 of their premium seamers. There's been talk of Naseem Shah not looking fit, which is maybe a reason why he's, I guess, being left out and sent home. I can tell you now, and though I haven't seen Muhammad Ali since February, March, he's also not the fittest. So
He's got a big lad, isn't he, from memory?
Yeah, he is. And look, he's a fantastic red ball bowler. I don't think he's fulfilled his potential when it comes to Test cricket. I think he's an unbelievable bowler. He's done so well in Pakistan in first-class cricket. He blew the PSL apart this year with surprising everybody with his white ball skills and the skills that he's added. He will be able to reverse swing the ball. He is a swing bowler. He's got a bit of pace about him as well. But my question mark would be his fitness. Is he fit enough for those long spells? Can't see him playing. I also can't see Hasibullah Khan playing either. He's a reserve wicketkeeper, 21 years old. Can't imagine him playing. If he does, it's the middle order. It's the Mohammad Rizwan role. You'd be a brave. You'd be a brave team selectors to drop Mohammad Rizwan, Babar Azam, and the other 2 as well, wouldn't you? So it'd be a brave move. So I can see Hasibullah basically being here for a little bit of experience in case somebody goes down.
Well, I'm sure that Pakistan supporters are hoping that this works. Atif, what happens if it doesn't?
More changes, I guess. We can keep extending this list. I think what I would urge Pakistani cricket, if I was able to have a word with Pakistani cricket, I would urge them to just avoid just to be a little bit patient right now. If you're looking to rebuild, this isn't the kind of thing that happens over the course of 1 or 2 test matches. You have to be patient. You have to invest in players, in coaches. You have to have a long-term strategy for surfaces at home. You need to give your selectors a decent run. Allow them to establish a methodology to what it is they're doing. You can't just... There's this sort of impatience about Pakistani cricket amongst fans, amongst journalists, amongst broadcasters. They want it now, but sometimes you can't have it now. There's a big gap between what you're doing and what's happening in world cricket. I think they're just going to need to accept that this is going to be a little bit of an experiment in this particular test match. Might win, might lose, but either way, persevere.